Jake Miller stood at the large window of Space Station Meridian 7, watching the stars shine in the black void. He wore his best blue uniform with shiny medals on his chest. Today was important. Very important. Jake was a captain in the human space fleet. He had fought in many battles and visited many worlds. But today he was not here to fight. He was here to make peace. The space station floated between Earth space and alien space. It was neutral ground where different species could meet safely. The station was huge with white walls and bright lights everywhere. Ships from many worlds docked here to trade and talk. "Captain Miller, they are coming," said his assistant, Lieutenant Amy Brooks. She pointed out the window at a ship approaching the station. The alien ship looked like a giant crystal floating through space. It sparkled with blue and purple lights. This was a Zephyrian ship. The Zephyrians were the alien race that humans had been fighting for 3 years. Jake watched the crystal ship dock with the station. Soon alien diplomats would walk through those doors. He had seen pictures of Zephyrians before, but never met one in person. They were tall creatures made of living crystal. Their bodies shined like gems and they could change colors when they felt different emotions. "Are you nervous, sir?" Amy asked. She was young and this was her first diplomatic mission. "A little," Jake said honestly. 3 years of war don't end easily. But we have to try." The war had started over a simple mistake. Human explorers had landed on what they thought was an empty planet. But it was a Zephyrian holy site. The aliens attacked the humans to protect their sacred ground. Then humans attacked back. Soon both sides were fighting across the galaxy. Thousands had died on both sides. Whole planets had been destroyed. Jake had lost many friends in the fighting. But he was tired of war. Everyone was tired of war. A door slid open with a soft hiss. Commander Steve Walsh walked in. He was Jake's second in command, a big man with gray hair and serious eyes. "The Zephyrian delegation has arrived," Steve said. "They're in conference room 7. Jake nodded. "How many?" 12 aliens total. Their princess is leading the talks." "A princess?" Jake was surprised. "I thought they would send generals or politicians." "Princess Lyra Thess," Steve read from his tablet. "She's young but very smart. Our intelligence says she wants peace more than anyone in their government." Jake straightened his uniform. "Then let's not keep her waiting." The 3 humans walked through the station's corridors. Other species watched them pass. Some nodded respectfully. Others whispered behind their hands. Everyone knew about these peace talks. If they failed, the war would continue. If they succeeded, it might save millions of lives. Conference room 7 was large and round. The walls were made of clear glass so everyone could see the stars outside. In the center was a big table with chairs for both humans and aliens. Jake entered first. Across the room stood the Zephyrian delegation. They were tall, maybe 8 feet high. Their bodies were made of clear crystal that shined with inner light. Some were blue, others were purple or green. They wore flowing robes that seemed to be made of crystal threads. At the front of the group stood the princess. Jake could tell she was important because her crystal body glowed brighter than the others. She was beautiful in an alien way. Her face was sharp and geometric like a cut diamond. Her eyes were deep blue and seemed very wise. "I am Captain Jake Miller," he said, stepping forward. "I represent the United Earth government." The princess moved forward too. When she spoke, her voice sounded like music. "I am Princess Lyra Thess of the Zephyrian Empire. I speak for the Crystal Throne." They did not shake hands. Humans and Zephyrians had different customs. Instead, Jake placed his hand over his heart and bowed slightly. The princess touched her forehead and glowed brighter for a moment. "Please sit," Jake said, gesturing to the table. The talks began slowly. Both sides were careful with their words. They spoke about borders and trade routes. They discussed which planets belonged to whom. It was boring but necessary work. Jake found himself watching the princess often. She was not like the other aliens. When her advisors wanted to demand more territory, she asked for less. When they suggested harsh punishments for war crimes, she proposed fair trials instead. "Why do you want peace so much?" Jake asked during a break. They were alone by the window while others talked in small groups. The princess was quiet for a moment. Her crystal body turned a sad purple color. "I have seen too much death, Captain Miller. In our last battle, I watched a human ship explode. There were families on that ship, children." Jake was surprised. Most military leaders only cared about winning. "You think about the enemy as people? Are you not people?" she asked, tilting her head. "You feel pain, love, fear just like us. Your bodies are different, but inside you have the same feelings. For the first time in 3 years, Jake felt hope. If this alien princess could see humans as real people, maybe peace was possible. The talks continued for 3 days. Slowly, both sides found things they could agree on. Humans would leave the sacred planets. Zephyrians would open trade routes. Prisoners would be exchanged. It was not perfect, but it was a start. On the third evening, Jake and the princess were working late. Everyone else had gone to rest. They were trying to solve the last big problem: how to make sure both sides kept their promises. "My people do not trust easily," the princess said. "They think humans break their word." "Some humans think the same about your people," Jake replied. "Trust takes time to build." The princess glowed softly in the dim room. "You are different from what I expected, Captain Miller. You seem honest." "War makes everyone suspicious," Jake said, "but maybe we can change that." They worked until late, finding solutions to problems that had seemed impossible. Jake began to respect the princess. She was smart and fair. She really wanted what was best for both species. Neither of them knew that enemies on both sides were watching. Humans who wanted the war to continue. Zephyrians who hated all aliens. These groups had made secret plans. Tomorrow would be the final day of talks. If everything went well, they would sign the first peace treaty between humans and Zephyrians. But some people would do anything to stop that from happening. The fourth day of peace talks started early. Jake woke up feeling good about their progress. In just a few hours, both sides would sign the treaty. The war might finally be over. He put on his dress uniform, the special one with gold buttons for important ceremonies. Today felt like the most important day of his life. In the conference room, both delegations gathered around the big table. The treaty documents were laid out in neat piles. Human versions were written in English. Zephyrian versions glowed with crystal writing that changed colors as you read it. Princess Lyrathess wore special ceremonial robes that sparkled like starlight. She looked happy but nervous. Her crystal body glowed with soft golden light. "Today we make history," she said to Jake as they prepared for the ceremony. "Good history, I hope," Jake replied with a smile. Camera crews from both species recorded everything. This moment would be shown on every human world and every Zephyrian planet. Children would learn about this day in school. Ambassador Carol Stone stepped forward to read the treaty terms aloud. She was an older woman with gray hair who had worked for peace her whole life. "The Human Zephyrian Peace Accord," she began. "After 3 years of conflict, both species agree to end all hostilities." Jake listened to the words but kept watching the room. His military training made him notice small details. The way people stood, where the exits were, who looked nervous. Something felt wrong. Lieutenant Amy Brooks was monitoring the station's security systems on her tablet. She frowned and looked up at Jake. Her face was worried. Jake moved closer to her. "What is it?" he whispered. "Strange energy readings, sir," Amy said quietly. Multiple sources around the room. Jake's blood went cold. Energy readings could mean weapons. Hidden weapons. He looked around the room more carefully. Most people were watching the ceremony, but a few human technicians near the walls seemed tense, and some of the Zephyrian guards were standing in odd positions. "How many readings?" Jake asked. 7. "No, wait, 12. They're getting stronger." Jake's mind raced. 12 energy sources meant multiple bombs. This was a coordinated attack. But who was behind it? He looked at the human technicians again. They wore Terra First pins on their uniforms. Terra First was a group that hated all aliens. They wanted humans to rule the galaxy alone. Then he noticed something else. 3 Zephyrian guards had crystal patterns on their armor that Jake had never seen before. In their briefings, he had learned that some Zephyrians belonged to a group called the Pure Crystal Order. They hated all non-crystal life forms. The 2 enemy groups had worked together. Human supremacists and alien supremacists united in their hatred of peace. Ambassador Stone continued reading the treaty. "Both species will respect each other's territory and—" Jake saw one of the human technicians touch something on his belt. Several Zephyrian guards did the same thing. "Amy, get everyone out of here." "Now," Jake said urgently. "What's wrong?" Princess Lyrathess had noticed Jake's worried expression. "There are bombs," Jake said quickly. "We need to evacuate." The princess's eyes went wide. Her crystal body flashed bright red, the Zephyrian color for danger, but it was too late. Explosions erupted around the room. Bright flashes of light and heat filled the air. The first bombs were small, meant to create chaos and panic. People screamed and ran in all directions. Smoke filled the room. Emergency alarms started blaring throughout the station. Through the chaos, Jake saw the biggest bomb. It was hidden under the table, right next to where Princess Lyra Thess was standing. The device was larger than the others and glowing with deadly energy. The princess saw it too. Her face showed terror as she realized she could not run fast enough to escape. Jake did not think. He just acted. He threw himself forward, pushing the princess away from the bomb. His body crashed into hers just as the device exploded. The blast was enormous. It was not just a human bomb or a Zephyrian bomb. It was both technologies combined, making it twice as deadly. Energy waves of fire and crystal lightning erupted from the device. Jake felt the explosion hit him like a giant fist. Heat and electricity tore through his body. Pain shot through every nerve. He felt his skin burning and his bones shaking. But Princess Lyrathus was safe. His body had shielded her from the worst of the blast. The princess caught Jake as he fell. His uniform was burned and torn. Blood came from cuts on his face and hands, but he was still breathing. "Captain Miller," she cried. Her voice was full of panic and sadness. "Get everyone out," Jake whispered through the pain. More explosions went off around the room. The terrorists had planted bombs everywhere. Parts of the ceiling started falling down. Windows cracked and air began rushing out into space. Commander Steve Walsh and other security guards fought their way through the smoke to reach them. "We have to go," Steve shouted. "The station is breaking apart." The princess refused to leave Jake. "He saved my life," she said. "I will not abandon him." Steve looked at Jake's injuries. They were very bad. Human medical equipment might not be enough to save him. "The Zephyrian medical bay," the princess said quickly. "Our crystal healing technology can help him. But we must hurry." Zephyrian guards formed a protective circle around them as they carried Jake through the damaged station. Emergency lights flashed red. People ran everywhere, trying to escape the continuing explosions. In the corridors, they met Dr. Lisa Park, the human doctor who had come with the diplomatic team. She looked at Jake's wounds and shook her head. "I don't know if he'll make it," she said honestly. "The blast did something strange to his body. It's not just burns and cuts. The energy is still inside him, changing his cells." "Our healers can remove foreign energy," Princess Lyrathus said. "But we must get him to our ship immediately." They ran through the station as it shook from more explosions. Behind them, the conference room was completely destroyed. The peace treaty documents were burning. 3 years of diplomatic work had been ruined in minutes. But Jake's sacrifice had saved the most important thing, the life of Princess Lyrathus. Without her, there could never be peace between the species. As they reached the Zephyrian ship, the princess looked back at the damaged station. Her crystal body glowed with anger and determination. "The terrorists think they have won," she said. "They believe this attack will restart the war." Dr. Park was already working on Jake's injuries with Zephyrian medical equipment she did not fully understand. "Will it?" she asked. The princess watched Jake's unconscious face. This human had risked everything to save her. He had shown her that some people cared more about doing right than about their own safety. "No," she said firmly. "Captain Miller has shown me that peace is worth any sacrifice. When he recovers, we will finish what we started." The Zephyrian ship left the damaged station and jumped to hyperspace. In the medical bay, alien healers worked desperately to save Jake's life. They did not know that the explosion had changed him in ways no one could predict. The mixed human and Zephyrian energy was not killing him, it was transforming him. Behind them, the terrorists celebrated their attack. They thought they had ended any chance for peace. But they had made a big mistake. They had turned Jake Miller into a bridge between two species, and they had made Princess Lyrathus more determined than ever to unite their peoples. The war was not over, but something new was beginning. Jake's eyes opened slowly. Everything was bright and shiny. He tried to move, but his body felt heavy and strange. Where was he? He was lying on something that looked like a bed made of crystal. The room around him was beautiful but alien. The walls glowed with soft blue light. Strange symbols moved across the ceiling like living writing. Then he saw them. Giant figures stood around his bed like statues. They were Zephyrians, but bigger than any he had seen before. Each one was at least 9 feet tall. Their crystal bodies were dark blue and purple. They wore armor that looked like it was carved from precious stones. Jake tried to sit up quickly, but pain shot through his chest. One of the giant Zephyrians stepped forward, but not to attack. Instead, the alien placed his fist over his heart and bowed deeply. The others did the same thing. Jake stared in confusion. Why were these alien warriors bowing to him? "You are awake." The voice was familiar and musical. Princess Lyra Thess entered the room. She looked different than before. Her crystal body glowed brighter, and she wore a crown made of pure light. "Princess," Jake said. His voice came out rough and weak. "Where am I?" "You are on Christhia, my homeworld," she said, moving to his bedside. "You have been unconscious for 3 weeks." 3 weeks? Jake tried to remember what had happened. The peace talks, the explosions, throwing himself in front of the bomb. Did everyone else escape the station? Most did, thanks to your warning. Ambassador Stone survived. So did Dr. Park and Commander Walsh. But 12 people died in the attack. The princess's light dimmed with sadness. Jake closed his eyes. 12 dead, all because some people could not accept peace. The terrorists? He asked, captured. Both the human and Zephyrian groups. They will face justice. Her light grew brighter with anger. Jake looked around at the giant guards again. Who are they? And why are they bowing to me? Princess Lyra Thess smiled. They are the Royal Guard, the greatest warriors in our empire. And they bow because you are now their brother. Brother? Jake did not understand. The princess sat on the edge of his crystal bed. In our culture, there is an ancient law called the Sacred Shield. When someone risks their life to protect royal blood, they become family to the crown. You saved my life, Captain Miller. That makes you my brother by law. Jake's mouth fell open. I'm not Zephyrian. I can't be royal family. Species does not matter, the princess said. You proved your honor. My father, the Emperor, has declared you shield brother to the House of Christhia. You are now a prince of our people. One of the guards stepped forward and spoke in the Zephyrian language. His voice sounded like distant thunder. Guard Captain Zenth says he is honored to serve you, the princess translated. All of the Royal Guard have sworn to protect you as they protect me. Jake felt overwhelmed. He had just wanted to save someone's life. Now he was an alien prince? I don't understand your customs, Jake said. I don't even speak your language. That can be fixed. The princess touched a small crystal device to Jake's temple. This is a neural translator. It will help you understand our words and our ways. Jake felt a strange tingling in his head. Suddenly, when the guards spoke, he could understand them. Welcome, Shield Brother, Guard Captain Zenth said. Your courage honors us all. Dr. Lisa Park entered the room carrying a tablet full of medical data. She looked tired but relieved to see Jake awake. Thank goodness, she said. I was worried you might never wake up. What happened to me? Jake asked. I feel different. Dr. Park looked at Princess Lyra Thess, who nodded for her to continue. The explosion was not normal, Dr. Park explained. It mixed human plasma energy with Zephyrian crystal power. That energy is now part of your body. What does that mean? We're still learning, the princess said. But the energy has changed your cells. You heal faster now. You're stronger and... She paused. And what? You can sense emotions like we can. The crystal energy has given you limited telepathic abilities. Jake stared at her. You're joking. Try it, the princess said. What am I feeling right now? Jake looked at her glowing crystal face. Somehow, without knowing how, he could sense her emotions. She felt happy that he was alive, but also worried about something else. You're glad I'm okay, Jake said slowly. But you're scared about something. Something about my being here. The princess's eyes widened. Amazing. It usually takes our children years to develop that ability. Dr. Park made notes on her tablet. The energy has also enhanced your physical abilities. Your bones are denser. Your muscles are stronger. You're not completely human anymore, Jake. Before Jake could respond, another Zephyrian entered the room. This one was even more impressive than the guards. His crystal body was pure gold and covered with intricate patterns. He wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. Everyone in the room bowed deeply, including the princess. Father, Princess Lyra Thess said. The Emperor of Christhia studied Jake with ancient, wise eyes. When he spoke, his voice filled the entire room. So this is the human who saved my daughter's life. Jake tried to get out of bed to bow, but the Emperor raised a hand to stop him. Rest, young prince. You have earned the right, Your Majesty, Jake said carefully. I'm honored by your offer, but I'm not sure I can be a Zephyrian prince. I have duties to my own people. The Emperor's golden light grew brighter. Your people think you are dead, Captain Miller. The terrorist attack was blamed on both sides. The peace talks have failed. The war continues, Jake felt his heart sink. All of their work had been for nothing. However, the Emperor continued, your sacrifice has changed something important. It has changed my mind about humans. The Emperor moved closer to Jake's bed. For years I believed humans were violent and selfish. But you proved that some humans will risk everything for others, even for aliens they barely know. Many humans want peace, Your Majesty, Jake said. Perhaps, but the extremists on both sides are strong. They use fear to control others. The Emperor looked sad. Even now they spread lies about what happened at the station. They say Zephyrians attacked first. They say humans cannot be trusted. Princess Lyrathess stepped forward. Father, we cannot give up. Captain Miller's sacrifice must mean something. It does mean something, daughter. It means we have found one human we can trust completely. The Emperor looked at Jake. The question is, will you help us find others? Jake thought about this. His old life was gone. Everyone thought he was dead, but maybe that gave him a chance to do something even more important than being a diplomat. What do you want me to do? Jake asked. Learn our ways, the Emperor said. Become truly one of us. Then help us build a real peace, not just words on paper. That could take years, Jake said. Do you have somewhere else to be? The princess asked with a small smile. Jake looked around the room. At the loyal guards who now called him brother. At Dr. Park, who had stayed to help him heal. At the princess who had risked political trouble to save his life. At the Emperor who was offering him a chance to change history. No, Jake said finally. I guess I don't. The Emperor smiled, and his golden light filled the room with warmth. Then welcome to the family, my son. As the days passed, Jake learned that being a Zephyrian prince was not easy. There were hundreds of customs to learn, ancient ceremonies to perform, languages to study. But every day he also learned something new about the Zephyrian people. They were not the cold, heartless aliens that human propaganda described. They were a proud people who valued honor above all else. They loved their families and mourned their dead just like humans. And slowly Jake began to form a plan. If he could understand both species completely, maybe he could find a way to bring them together. He just had to survive being an alien prince first. 2 months had passed since Jake woke up on Christhia. He was learning to live as a Zephyrian prince, but it was not easy. Every day brought new lessons about alien customs and traditions. Jake stood in the palace training room, practicing sword fighting with guard Captain Zenth. The Zephyrian fighting style was different from human combat. It was more like dancing, with flowing movements that looked beautiful but deadly. Better, Zenth said as Jake blocked his attack. But you still think like a human warrior. You use force when you should use grace. Jake wiped sweat from his forehead. The crystal energy in his body made him stronger and faster. But learning alien fighting techniques was still hard work. Human fighting is about winning quickly, Jake said. Zephyrian fighting is about art. Honor, Zenth corrected. We fight with beauty because ugly fighting comes from ugly thoughts. Pure hearts create pure movements. Princess Lyrathess entered the training room. Over the past months, Jake had learned to read her emotions through the crystal energy they now shared. Today she felt worried and angry. What's wrong? Jake asked, lowering his practice sword. Ships, she said. Human ships. A whole fleet has arrived at the edge of our system. Jake's blood went cold. How many ships? 50 warships, including the battleship Washington. The princess looked at Jake with sad eyes. They are demanding your return. Jake knew the Washington. It was Admiral Ben Carter's flagship. Ben had been Jake's commanding officer before he became a diplomat. He was a good man but a tough soldier. They think you're being held prisoner, the princess continued. The Admiral sent a message saying they will attack if we don't release you in 3 days. Jake felt torn between two worlds. He wanted to see his old friends, but he had important work to do here. The bonding ceremonies were not complete yet. If he left now, his status as shield brother would be lost forever. Can I talk to them? Jake asked. Father says no. He believes it would show weakness to negotiate with threats. The princess sighed. But he also does not want war. That evening, Jake stood on a balcony looking up at the stars. Somewhere up there, 50 human ships waited for his answer. On each ship were soldiers who had served with him, friends who thought they were coming to rescue him. Dr. Lisa Park joined him on the balcony. She had been staying in the palace, working with Zephyrian healers to study Jake's changes. "Thinking about home?" she asked. "I am home," Jake said, surprising himself. "That's the problem. The Admiral won't wait forever," Dr. Park said. "And he has politicians back on Earth pushing him to act. They think keeping you here proves that aliens can't be trusted." Jake turned to look at the Crystal City below. In the past 2 months, he had walked through those streets and met the people. Zephyrian children played games just like human children. Families worried about their loved ones in the military. Workers hoped for better lives for their sons and daughters. "Lisa, what would you do?" Jake asked. "I'd follow my heart," she said. "But I'd also remember that sometimes the right choice is the hard choice." The next morning brought bad news. Commander Steve Walsh had taken a small ship and snuck past the Zephyrian defenses. He wanted to see Jake personally. Jake met Steve in the palace reception hall. His old friend looked older and more tired than before. When Steve saw Jake, his eyes went wide. "My God, Jake, what have they done to you?" Jake looked down at himself. His skin had a slight crystal shine now. His eyes glowed with inner light. He wore Zephyrian robes instead of a human uniform. "They saved my life," Jake said, "and they gave me a new purpose." "You look like one of them," Steve said with disgust. "The Jake Miller I knew would never abandon his own species." "I haven't abandoned anyone," Jake said calmly. "I'm trying to save both species." Steve pulled out a tablet showing news reports from human space. "Look at this. The peace talks failed. Fighting has started again. 3 colonies have been attacked. Thousands are dead." Jake felt sick as he read the reports. While he had been learning to be a prince, people were dying. "It's worse than before," Steve continued. "Both sides think the other planned the terrorist attack. Trust is completely gone." "Then we need to rebuild it," Jake said. "We? You're human, Jake. Your duty is to your own people." Steve's voice was angry. "Admiral Carter sent me to bring you home. Are you coming or not?" Before Jake could answer, alarms started ringing throughout the palace. Guards ran through the halls carrying weapons. Princess Lyrathess burst into the room with terrible news. "Another attack," she said. "Terrorists bombed a Zephyrian transport ship. 50 families were killed, including children." Jake felt the princess's emotions through their bond. Rage, sadness, and fear mixed together like a storm. "Was it humans?" Steve asked. "We don't know yet," the princess said. "But my people will demand revenge. The Emperor is calling for a military response." Jake realized that the terrorists were still working. They had failed to stop the peace talks, but they were succeeding in restarting the war. "I have to see this attack site," Jake said. "Why?" Steve asked. "Because I might be the only person both sides will trust to investigate." They took a fast ship to the attack location. The scene was horrible. The Zephyrian transport had been carrying families moving to a new colony. Now it was just twisted metal and crystal floating in space. Jake used his enhanced senses to examine the wreckage. The bomb fragments felt familiar. Too familiar. "This is the same technology as the station attack," he said. "Same human plasma charges mixed with Zephyrian crystal destabilizers." "That's impossible," Steve said. "All the terrorists were captured." "Were they?" Jake asked. "Or did we only catch the foot soldiers?" Princess Lyrathess was examining crystal fragments that used to be part of the ship's hull. "These are not random crystal pieces," she said. "They have specific patterns, sacred patterns that only the pure crystal order knows how to make." Jake felt pieces of the puzzle falling together. The terrorist groups are still working together, and they have people in high positions in both governments. An emergency message came through on their ship's communication system. Admiral Carter's face appeared on the screen. "Commander Walsh, status report." "Admiral, Captain Miller is safe," Steve said. "But we have a bigger problem." "The only problem I see is getting our man back," Carter said firmly. "The politicians are breathing down my neck. If Miller isn't returned in 12 hours, I have orders to begin military action." "Admiral, please listen," Jake said, stepping into view of the camera. "The terrorist attacks are still happening. There are traitors on both sides working together." Carter stared at Jake's changed appearance. "Son, what have they done to you?" "They made me better," Jake said. "Ben, I know this is hard to understand, but I can help end this war. I just need more time." "Time's up, Jake. You're coming home." "That's final." The transmission ended. Jake had 12 hours to choose between his old life and his new mission. But as they flew back to Christhia, Jake realized he didn't have to choose between helping humans and helping Zephyrians. He could help both. The terrorists thought they were smart, playing both species against each other. But they had made one mistake. They had created Jake Miller, a human who could think like a Zephyrian and a Zephyrian who remembered how to be human. "Princess," Jake said, "I need to ask you a very big favor." "Anything," she said. "Help me fake my own death again." The princess looked confused, but Jake was already forming a plan. If both sides thought he was dead, he could work in secret. He could find the real terrorists and expose their network. It was dangerous and would mean giving up any chance of returning to his old life. But some things were worth any sacrifice, including peace. Jake's plan was simple but dangerous. He would fake his death and go underground to hunt the terrorists. But first he needed to find proof of the conspiracy. Princess Lyrithus led him to the ancient archives deep beneath the palace. The crystal caves were older than the city above. Strange patterns covered the walls, glowing with their own light. "These are the memory crystals," the princess explained. "They store our people's history going back thousands of years." Jake touched one of the crystal formations and felt images flow into his mind. Ancient Zephyrians building cities, wars fought long ago, and something else that made him stop breathing. "Princess, look at this." The crystal showed him a scene from hundreds of years in the past. But the aliens in the vision were not just Zephyrians. There were other beings too. Beings that looked like humans. "That's impossible," the princess said. "Humans and Zephyrians only met 3 years ago." But the crystal memories didn't lie. They showed humans and Zephyrians working together, building cities and exploring space as partners. "What happened to them?" Jake asked. They searched through more crystals and found the answer. A group of extremists from both species had destroyed all records of their cooperation. They convinced each side that the other was dangerous. They started the first war between humans and Zephyrians centuries ago. The same thing is happening now, Jake realized. Someone wants us to stay enemies forever. Princess Lyrithus was studying the crystal patterns more closely. "Jake, these memory crystals. They were damaged. Someone tried to erase them. Recently, within the last few months. Someone who knew about the peace talks was here trying to hide this history. They heard footsteps in the tunnels above. Someone was coming. Hide," the princess whispered. 3 figures entered the crystal chamber. Jake recognized one of them immediately. General Marcus Cole, one of the human negotiators from the peace talks. The other 2 were Zephyrian nobles that Jake had met at court. "Are you sure the memory crystals are destroyed?" General Cole asked. "Most of them," said Lord Kethvar, one of the Zephyrian nobles. "But the human prince may have seen too much before his death." Jake's heart raced. They were talking about him and they thought he was dead. "Miller's death was unfortunate but necessary," General Cole said. "He was getting too close to the truth." "The transport bombing was perfect," said the other Zephyrian, Lady Vexthera. "Both sides blame each other now. War is certain, and we profit from both sides," General Cole smiled. "Humans buy weapons from my companies. Zephyrians buy them from yours. War makes us all rich." Jake felt sick. The conspiracy was about money and power. These people were willing to let millions die just to get wealthy. "What about Admiral Carter's fleet?" Lord Kethvar asked. "Let them attack," General Cole said. "When they destroy the palace, we'll claim the Zephyrians killed Miller. Earth will demand total war." The 3 conspirators left the cave, laughing about their success. Jake and the princess waited until they were gone before speaking. "We have to stop them," the princess said, "but how? They think I'm dead. And in a few hours, Admiral Carter will attack the palace." The princess was quiet for a moment. Then her crystal body began glowing brighter. "There is a way," she said, "but it will require the greatest sacrifice of all." "What do you mean?" "The bonding of souls. It's an ancient ceremony that joins 2 people completely. They share thoughts, memories, emotions, everything." Jake stared at her. "That sounds permanent." "It is. Once bonded, we would be connected forever. And the ceremony would give you full access to Zephyrian royal powers. You could speak to both fleets with the authority of the Crystal Throne. But what would it cost me?" The princess looked sad. "Your humanity. You would become something new. Not human, not Zephyrian, but both. There would be no going back." Jake thought about his old life. His friends on Admiral Carter's fleet. The simple days when he was just a human soldier. Then he thought about the thousands who had already died in this war. The families destroyed by hatred and fear. The children who would grow up as enemies instead of friends. Do it, he said. The bonding ceremony was unlike anything Jake had ever experienced. The princess placed her crystal hands on his temples, and suddenly their minds merged completely. Jake felt her memories flowing into him. Her childhood in the crystal palaces, her dreams of peace between the species, her fear that the war would destroy everything she loved. At the same time, she experienced his memories, his battles in space, his grief for fallen friends, his hope that someday all beings could live together. When the ceremony ended, Jake was changed forever. His body was now half crystal, glowing with inner light. His mind could touch both human and Zephyrian thoughts. He was no longer Captain Jake Miller of Earth. He was something entirely new. Alarms rang throughout the palace. Admiral Carter's fleet had entered the system and was demanding surrender. Jake walked out onto the palace's main balcony. Below him, Zephyrian warships were preparing for battle. Above him, human ships waited in space. He opened communication channels to both fleets. "This is Jake Miller," he said. His voice now carried the musical quality of Zephyrian speech but still sounded human. "Admiral Carter, I know you're listening." On the screens around the palace, Jake could see the bridge of the Washington. Admiral Carter looked shocked to see his former officer alive. "Jake? My God, son, what have they done to you?" "They saved me, Ben, and I'm about to save both of our species." Jake began transmitting the evidence from the crystal archives. Ancient records showing humans and Zephyrians as allies. Recent recordings of the conspirators planning more attacks. "General Cole is on your flagship right now," Jake told Carter. "Arrest him and you'll find proof that he's been selling weapons to both sides." On another screen, Jake could see the Emperor addressing the Zephyrian fleet. "Arrest Lord Kethavar and Lady Vexthara," the Emperor commanded. "They have betrayed the Crystal Throne." The conspiracy began falling apart as evidence poured in. Communications between human and Zephyrian extremists, bank records showing illegal weapon sales, plans for more terrorist attacks. But some of the conspirators weren't giving up easily. General Cole tried to take control of Admiral Carter's ship. "That thing isn't human anymore," he shouted. "It's an alien trick." Fighting broke out on the Washington as loyal officers tried to arrest the general. At the same time, Lord Kethavar's supporters launched an attack on the palace. They wanted to kill Jake before he could expose more secrets. Jake found himself in the middle of a three-way battle. Human and Zephyrian conspirators fought against their own people while both fleets faced each other in space. "I have to get to the command center," Jake told Princess Lyrithes. "I can coordinate both fleets from there." "It's too dangerous," she said. "The corridors are full of Kethavar's soldiers. Then we fight our way through." Jake's new abilities made him faster and stronger than ever before. His hybrid nature allowed him to use both human tactics and Zephyrian techniques. He moved through the palace like a force of nature, Princess Lyrithes at his side. In the command center, Jake connected to both fleet communication systems. His enhanced mind could process information from hundreds of ships at once. "All ships, this is Jake Miller. I'm transmitting battle coordinates for the terrorist vessels. Work together and we can end this." For the first time in 3 years, human and Zephyrian ships fought side by side. Jake's tactical genius, enhanced by alien technology, allowed him to coordinate both fleets perfectly. The battle was brief, but decisive. The conspirators were outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Their ships were destroyed or captured within an hour. When the fighting ended, Jake stood before representatives of both species. He was no longer fully human, but he was more than human too. "The war is over," he announced. "But the real work is just beginning." Admiral Carter transported down to the palace. When he saw Jake's transformed appearance, he was quiet for a long moment. "You gave up everything," Carter finally said. "I gained everything," Jake replied. "I became a bridge between worlds." Dr. Lisa Park chose to stay on Christhia to establish the first joint research center. Commander Steve Walsh, after seeing the evidence of the conspiracy, volunteered to be the first human ambassador to the Zephyrian Empire. The Emperor created a new position just for Jake, Bridgewalker, with authority to speak for both species in times of crisis. Princess Lyrithes, now his permanent partner through the soul bond, began preparations to rule an empire that would include both humans and Zephyrians as equals. On the day of the official peace signing, Jake stood between the two delegations. His sacrifice had done more than save one life or stop one war. He had proven that different species could become one people, The documents were signed not on a neutral station, but in the palace on Christhia. Human children and Zephyrian younglings played together in the gardens outside. Admiral Carter approached Jake after the ceremony. "Any regrets?" Carter asked. Jake looked at the mixed crowd of humans and aliens celebrating together. He felt Princess Lyrithes's happiness through their bond. He sensed the hope and joy from both species as they began planning a shared future. "None at all," Jake said. "This is what I was meant to become." The galaxy was changing. Where once there had been two species at war, now there was one people working together. And at the center of it all was a man who had chosen to risk,